So what we're doing now is our pâte brisée. That's a French term for it. Also called a short paste or short crust. That's a little crust we will use for gâteau Saint-Honoré, a very classical French cake. And it's also a crust which you could use for many other applications inside your baking kitchen as well. If you like to make a nice quiche, for example, that's your crust you're going to go to. Or if you make some fruit tarts, for example, like a clafoutis tart, another very famous French tart, which has a little bit of a liquid cream filling, this will be a nice crust to do for it. So I'll show you quickly how it works. We have some cake and pastry flour, we get a little bit of water, we have an egg to go inside there, some butter, and also just a little bit of salt. So I have a nice large mixing bowl. I will sieve my flour into the mixing bowl. As we work with cake and pastry flour, I always recommend sifting it. It has a few advantages. Cake flour has a little bit of higher moisture content, so it tends to lump up a little bit. And you can see it right there, the tiny lumps of flour inside there. Use them, press them through. But by sieving it, obviously you break off your lumps a little bit. And also by sieving your flour, you lighten up the whole volume of flour, which makes it a little bit easier to combine it with your remaining ingredients as well. So, flour is inside the bowl. We'll add a little pinch of salt to it. And that's really just for flavor. And we have some butter as well. Add your butter to it first and just rub it inside there until that whole mixture has a very nice sandy texture to it. So in a way it's a very gentle way of making a crust. Now instead of having the flour, adding your liquids to it and start kneading it, you would start to develop a lot of gluten inside there, which would give you a lot of tightness and chewiness inside the crust. And you would have most likely a crust which would spring back and shrink a lot as you roll it out and bake it. So basically we don't want to have any gluten inside. You want to have a nice tender soft crust, and by incorporating a nice large amount of butter first, very gently, by just rubbing it, you minimize your gluten development inside there. And that's why it's so important to use a good cake and pastry flour as well, which is much lower on its protein content. Remember, wheat contains two proteins which will link together through agitation and moisture added into what we know as gluten, which is very elastic. Many times we need that. Quite chewy. We need that many times as well. But making a nice tender crust, we don't really want it. So that's why you want to work it quite gentle. So just rub it back and forth between your hands. And you can see the whole mixture is turning nice and yellowish and it looks just like sand. So you don't want to have any big chunks of fat remaining inside there. You're not making a flaky pie dough. You want to have it all worked in and feel nice and smooth there. So room temperature butter is good for this. You can use a little bit colder butter as well. It doesn't really matter too much. Nonetheless, making the whole crust is pretty fast. And do a little bit ahead of time. It will be a little bit soft as it's finished because you're handling it quite a bit now and you're warming your butter as well. It's always good to have it resting a little bit inside the fridge for that quantity we're doing, maybe half an hour. Long is fine as well. You can let it sit overnight, no problem. Okay, there we go. That looks nice. So what I'm doing now, I'll take my one egg, crack it onto my water, and just break off my egg a little bit and mix it together with my water. I want to make sure that's well mixed together, because once we're adding our liquids to it, once again you want to be very gentle in bringing our dough together. You don't really want to knead it. Remember, if you start kneading it, you develop gluten inside there, and your dough will shrink on you as you roll it out and bake. Okay, that's my water and egg. Once again, room temperature, totally fine for that. And just very nice and gentle, bring it together. So not so much of a kneading motion, more pressing it together. And you have a pretty wet dough on your hands, and that's totally normal. So don't panic anything, feeling, oh, that's way too wet, you need more flours inside there. Not at all. You have a lot of butter inside which got softened out through that all handling of it. And as you put that rather soft and wet dough inside the fridge, it will firm up again. So adding more flour to it will not give you a better quality dough at all, rather the opposite. There we go. We'll just wrap it up, place it inside the fridge a little bit, and once it's firm enough, we'll roll it out. So now I got my pâte brisée, my short crust. It had rested in the fridge for quite a while, so it firmed up quite nicely. What I want to do now is take maybe half to 3/4, don't need all of it, and start rolling it out. So have a little bit of dusting flour on your station, make sure your dough will not stick on it. A little bit on the top, and nice and gentle, start rolling it out. And just make sure you keep on moving your dough to prevent it from sticking on your table. And you want to roll it to all directions, so that way you get an even thickness on there as well. And try not to roll it over its edges. That will flatten them out and we'll get an unevenness inside there. So you're aiming for an 8-inch gâteau Saint-Honoré. Want to make sure the dough we have here is large enough, rolled out. And any trimmings, any leftovers you have, it goes back inside the fridge and you can keep that dough for a couple of days, no problem. Or make some mini things out of it. Small quiche or small fruit tarts, all the things you can do out of it. So that's my 8-inch cake rink. So make sure you allow your dough to spring back and of course ensure it's not stuck on the table there as well. Cut it out, gather up the excess amount. And there's my 8-inch, which is very nice and gentle. I place onto my sheet pan. This is what we call a little dogger, which punches a few little holes inside my crust, which will prevent it from bubbling up. Now if you don't have that one, don't despair. Sure, you got a fork at home. Works the same way, just takes a little bit longer. Nice little gadget to have inside the kitchen. Alright, so let this rest just a little bit, maybe 5-10 minutes, because you just rolled out your dough. That means you work your gluten again, you stretch your gluten. So don't start anything with it quite yet.